So, it's been a while since I made one of these, but now that I've released the first trailer for the game, and the game is available to wishlist on Steam, I figured that it's long overdue for me to show what I've been up to with my cozy houseplant game, Taking Root. In the previous devlog, I had been using these basic models that I created myself, but these were long overdue to be replaced with something prettier and more permanent. Now I'm primarily a programmer, and my modelling skills are rather limited, so I decided the best way to realise the vision that I had for this game's art would be to hire a couple of very talented artists who have already created these beautiful furniture models for the game. They've even created this adorable plush character. I haven't thought of a name for him yet, so do let me know in the comments what you think he should be called. I'm intending for there to be several sets of furniture in the game that each follow a theme, similar to the furniture sets that appear in games like Animal Crossing. So far, the furniture models that I've received fall into one of two sets, the Scandinavian set and the mid-century set. The Scandinavian set is based around the minimalist design seen in Scandinavian brands, which have now become particularly popular and well known thanks to a certain affordable Swedish company. The mid-century set, on the other hand, is based on the mid-century modern style, popular in the post-war period, which emphasises simple, functional, or geometric designs lacking the ornamentations that were popular in the period before the Second World War. I think that these two styles form a great base for the game, with players being able to mix and match between furniture as they please. While there's around 50 furniture items in the game at the moment, I'm planning for the final game to include over 100 unique pieces, so there will be several more furniture sets to come in the future. In the meantime, if you have any other ideas for furniture sets that you'd like to see in the game, be sure to let me know in the comments. Now that I had these models in the game, I wanted to make sure that the player really had the freedom to place the furniture and arrange it exactly as they wanted. One big problem with the old system is that all of the models just had one single box collider, meaning that it was impossible to have two furniture objects occupying a similar space. I wasn't happy with this, so I went through every model in the game and added much more accurate colliders. This means that the player now has a lot more freedom with how they place the objects. For example, you can place this lamp so it's overhanging this chair, which would have been impossible before. You can even place objects underneath other objects if you want to. Another big change that I've made is working on improving the visual style for the game. I've had a few people telling me that the old graphics were rather bland and washed out looking, so I spent a lot of time adjusting the lighting and the materials, as well as introducing some post-processing in order to make the graphics much more vibrant. I think you can agree that the new graphics are much more appealing, and honestly, now that I compare it with how it looked before, I find it difficult to understand how I was happy with the old look for the game. The graphics are by no means final, so if you have any ideas for how I can further improve the visual style of the game, I'd love to hear them, so be sure to let me know in the comments. One of the main aspects that I wanted to improve before releasing the trailer was the UI for the game. So far, I'd been using the default Unity UI, but I was getting sick of looking at this and needed something more final looking for the trailer. This is the overall style that I went with. I decided to use this soft pastel blue colour scheme, as well as rounded edges and a friendly, cartoonish font in order to reinforce the cozy and relaxed vibe that I want the game to give off. I've made sure to include some little details such as these animations when the item slots first appear, or the movement of these tabs as you hover over and select them. I find that these little bits of polish go a long way to making the game feel more complete and professional. While this UI design is by no means complete, it is a great jumping off point to make further improvements and move towards a final design. As you can see, I've created the shader for the background of the UI. The shader organically morphs between two shades of blue, similar to how a lava lamp moves. In my opinion, this also really helps with the relaxed, friendly vibe, and I think having a bit of movement in the UI screens helps keep them feeling dynamic. I'm not going to fully describe the shader graph setup for this shader, but I'd like to give a quick overview for how it works. Feel free to skip to the times shown on the screen if you're not interested in hearing the technical details. Firstly, this top section of the graph is used to create this scrolling pinstripe pattern. Then we have this gradient noise texture, which will be used to modify the pinstripe texture. This cluster of nodes is used to also scroll the gradient noise in a perpendicular direction to the pinstripe texture, in order to introduce some extra dynamicism to the final effect. Then we simply add the gradient texture to the pinstripe texture. This by itself isn't very exciting, but then as we apply a modulo to the texture, this ends up giving it a displacement-like effect. The fact that these two textures scroll in different directions helps keep the effect looking dynamic without repeating too much. Now I had almost everything ready for the trailer, but there was still one key feature missing. This is supposed to be a game about houseplants, and yet so far I'd only actually implemented one plant, the aloe vera. It was time to create some more plant models. I'm planning for there to be somewhere around 2 dozen plants in the final game. So far, I've now created models for 6 plants. Besides the aloe that I already mentioned, I now have models for a monstera, 2 species of alocasia, a begonia maculata, and a pilea. These plants don't actually grow yet, so they're just static models for now, but this behaviour will be coming soon. Now let's hop over to Blender and take a quick look at how I created these leaf models. Firstly, I went online and found a good reference image to use. Then I insert a plane and subdivide it like so that we can add some additional geometry later. Then, using the knife tool, I cut out the shape of the leaf according to the reference image. This looks pretty good, but the leaf is still perfectly flat, which isn't very convincing. To fix this, we'll use geometry nodes. For those who aren't aware, geometry nodes is a graph-based system that lets us programmatically modify the geometry of a mesh. In order to give the leaves a more natural appearance, I'm going to introduce a bit of randomness to the vertex positions along the axis perpendicular to the leaf. To do this, we will take the position of each vertex in the mesh and then translate its position along the x-axis according to this 3D noise function. This is the reason we needed to subdivide the mesh earlier. If you like, you can think of this as applying a random height map to the flat plane of the leaf. As you can see, this introduces some randomness to the position, which gives the leaf a much more natural appearance. I'm really happy with how these plant models came out overall. They make the game feel more alive and much closer to my vision. I can't wait until they also have growth logic implemented, and then it will really come to life. That's all of the most important work that I've done for the project in preparation for the trailer. At this point, I would say that most of the core game loop is there, and we're slowly inching closer towards a release. At this point, the most important features that are missing are content-based, such as the remainder of the furniture and plants, as well as the growth mechanics for the plants as we mentioned earlier. Beyond that, we're also still missing some of the more boring but essential things such as a main menu, settings, localization, and so on. Thanks for watching everyone. Make sure to head over to Steam and wishlist the game if you're at all interested in playing it once it releases, as every wishlist really helps to boost the visibility and promote the game. We also have a Discord server where you can come and discuss the game, or talk about game development and get help with your own projects. Finally, make sure to subscribe if you're interested in seeing more videos like this one and following the development of the game. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.